Thank you, everyone, for getting ahead of winter coming back and getting in here in time to not have to wear a jacket. My name is Thiel. I was a sports columnist for the Seattle Post-Intelligencer and later Sports Press Northwest. And as a part of my adventure, I was assigned to cover 9 Olympics. This is my first World Cup, but I will mention to you at the start, there's going to be in the ether about the World Cup, lots of talk of politics. And I can guarantee you that that's what happens at every single Olympics. It happens at every single World Cup. And so do keep that in mind that this is the first experience for Seattle in this particular event. But there's been a lot of stuff, not only in Seattle, but everywhere else that has these major international global events. And so it's okay to be a little concerned, but don't think that there's anything unique or unusual going on. This is how it works in major global events like this. So I'm going to start with Beth Knox, Seattle Sports Commission, because I think Beth has a great overview because she's helped bring so many events to this town. And I just wanted to list a few that we've had in Seattle and talk a little bit about the history and what's next for the town. Seattle has hosted the Alaska Yukon Pacific Exposition in 1909.
I was totally responsible for that.
You were just a kid. You were a kid, right? And I was a kid at the Seattle World's Fair in 1962. I was at the PI with the Goodwill Games in 1990. And I think maybe all of us were there for the World Trade Organization in 1999, which we're not going to cover tonight, but feel free to cringe among yourselves. And then Beth had the Special Olympics in 2018. You had a great command and well executed. So, and we've also had 3 men's basketball Final Four championships. We've had 3 baseball all-star games and several other NCAA championships, but there's been nothing quite like this event. And we're not going to have an Olympics, and maybe we'll have a World Series, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And Beth, I wanted you to just take an overview of how different this is and how large an impact you estimate this to be on Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, you've all heard it. The FIFA World Cup is the largest event on the planet. So what is unique about this particular one in 26 is that it's not in a single location or a single even country. So it'll be amongst the 3 countries. But nonetheless, the impact is significant, and it will be the largest event that Seattle has ever hosted, certainly. And I think what is most exciting to me about the place that we're in right now in hosting sporting events is that, in 2023, we had the MLB All-Star Game. That was really the first big one downtown Seattle that we'd had in 20 years. And then since then, we've hosted a number of events, the NHL Winter Classic, as Art said, men's basketball, women's, the NCAA Women's Super Regional, and then there was that little parade that we just hosted a few weeks ago. And that was actually a really cool, pivotal moment because I was part of the team that planned that, along with my colleagues at Seafair and, of course, all the city agencies. And to watch that come together in such a short amount of time and then to host 500,000 to 1 million people downtown on one day successfully. No incidences. I mean, it was really remarkable. And that just gave everyone a lot of relief because even with the World Cup, we won't have that many people on one day. We'll have it spread out over a period of time and have more. But it just really gave us a lot of confidence in our hosting abilities. And it gives confidence to other conferences, leagues, governing bodies of these sporting events. And when they are looking to select what city should be selected for to host some of these future events, they look at that history and that reputation. Are they good at welcoming visitors and giving a great experience? Can they keep them safe and not have crazy things happening? So we've already proven ourselves to that point. And we're going to, I know that the team that you see up here and then so many more that will be executing on hosting the World Cup visitors in Seattle will do a remarkable job. But the impact as far as the numbers, and I think just the scope of it, I know some of you have heard these numbers before, but and Leo, you have to help me out. Super Bowl, how many viewers? 125 million? I think is what it is?
The most recent Super Bowl, 125 million people watched, and then the most watched Super Bowl ever international audience was 183 million.
Right. So then World Cup just in Seattle, our television viewers will be 2 billion. So that's about 250 million, I think 200 million per the group stage matches, and then 400 million for the round of 30, or round of 32, and then 600 million for the round of 16. So, I mean, it eclipses I think it's like 16 Super Bowls, if I'm not mistaken, that equates to. So just by scope alone, this is an enormous event that we're hosting.
And Erin Goodman, I wanted to find out from you about SODO and the neighborhood most immediately impacted, both from volume and Party Central, as it may be.
Well, SODO's very familiar with hosting sporting events. This is something we know how to do. But like Beth said, this is a different magnitude. And I want to say that the LOC has been very proactive. We met with members of the LOC a week after MLB All-Star. They wanted to know what worked, what didn't work. And we have been actively engaged with the LOC and with the two other directly adjacent neighborhoods, which is the CID and Pioneer Square, from the very beginning. But we're a little different. You know, Pioneer Square and the CID, a lot of the conversation around MLB was, we didn't get any benefit. They didn't come to our restaurants. They didn't come to our stores. In SODO, we have only a small percentage of businesses that are looking to capitalize on fans. A vast majority of our businesses are B2B. They are the commercial bakeries that are serving the stadium. They are the food distributors that are making sure that all of the restaurants throughout Seattle have food in their restaurants. So in SODO, we look at this a little bit differently because our businesses are just trying to survive this, and they love sports. They know this process, but this one's going to be a little different. The containment zone and the streets that are closed is a little different. The amount of time is a little different. So our organization is working really closely with the LOC to make sure that the information is out as early as possible, because right now the questions we're hearing is, how are my employees going to get to work? And how are we going to function? How are we going to get trucks to the Pike Place Market? A lot of our businesses deliver there every day, and how is that all going to work? And people are super excited. I mean, you know, SODO businesses love sports, and so we're sort of trying to navigate that middle ground of we're excited and we still want to operate.
Kylie, you're the representative from the mayor's office on this, and so you've been involved in trying to manage some of this enterprise because it is layered and complex with security, hospitality, all the issues I'm sure that have come across your desk. And one of the hiccups in this has been just recently resolved, which was there was federal money supposed to be delivered to the 11 host cities in the U.S., ostensibly for security purposes, but it got hung up in the partial government shutdown, and DHS just this week released that money. So I wanted to ask you about, did the delay have impact, and where is that money destined to go? And hopefully it's not too late to get everything where you need it to be.
Yeah, no, and you're right. I mean, it definitely is not too late. And in terms of impact, I think obviously anytime you introduce a level of uncertainty into a planning process, particularly this late in the game, it's going to cause some anxiety. But the good news is that we have such dedicated public servants at the City of Seattle that have been thinking about this and planning this for years, long before I even came on the scene. And so no, it didn't slow down or affect any of our safety and security planning at all. I think now that we have more certainty that we will actually be able to fund all of these plans, there is a sense of relief, but no, I think it was just, again, for all of our experts that have been working on this for years, it was just stay laser focused on continuing to finalize the planning here. And I mean, I think, honestly, the bigger kind of uncertainty around all of this is just, as you both said, we've never done this before. Seattle knows how to put on events. We know how to put on major events and major sporting events. I think, but part of, I think, the challenge at the city and for city folks that have been working on this is, to kind of not get so caught up in, oh my God, this is going to be the biggest thing ever, and stick to what we know how to do. Yes, it's going to be a different scope and a different scale, and things are going to change, but we know how to do this. And I think for a lot of our city employees, we do feel an immense responsibility, as Beth spoke to, of, this is us on the world stage, and this is going to have consequences for the types of events that we're able to attract on the road. So there is kind of an immense level of responsibility, I think, that folks feel. But luckily, we are all in this together. I mean, all of us up here and many more have been working together for years on this. We each, while we kind of own separate and distinct lanes, are all very intermixed and intertwined. And I think as you'll hear as the conversation goes on, one of the things from the city perspective that is, I think, unique from what maybe Leo and his team are thinking about is, how are we fostering civic pride and celebration outside of the stadium areas or even the downtown core. So we put into place some pretty cool programs city-sponsored programs to try to spread out the celebrations out into the neighborhoods so that no matter where you are, you can feel like you are a part of this, immense event that we're hosting and can celebrate it within your neighborhood or within your own culture. So that's kind of one of the things that we're real proud of at the city.
Leo, you're the connection with the sports world as the Chief Legacy Officer of the Seattle Organizing Committee. And the Seattle Organizing Committee is the essential agency that manages how this is going to work, at least from Seattle's standpoint. And this is a very different event from previous World Cups because the field has expanded from 32 at the last one to 48. And there are going to be 104 matches in 3 countries. Mexico and Canada are also hosting games. And Seattle has 4 group stage games, and including the USA versus Australia on June 19th. And I would, if you're looking to go to an event or actually just stand in the street, I recommend this one highly because I covered the Olympics in Sydney in 2000, and these people know how to show up and party. So please bring your helmets and safety goggles. And so we also have some drama in the field that is still unresolved. Some of you, I'm sure, have heard about whether Iran is indeed going to participate given the hostilities between the U.S. and Iran. And I brought everyone a copy of a story that we just broke today, which says Iran's negotiating to move the World Cup matches from the United States to Mexico, and FIFA says no plans to switch. Leo, you're not ready to believe anything until the thing happens. Talk a little bit about what's going on from a standpoint of the field and FIFA.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one thing, and you touched on this, Art, is that with an event that is as popular and paid attention to as what Beth described, there are a lot of people who are covering it because folks want to know more, and there are a lot of people looking for all the different angles. I will say that on this particular issue with Iran's participation, first and foremost, there are things more important than even the largest sporting event in the world. And so there is a war that is happening. There are human lives that are affected by that. And so first and foremost, we wish for peace. We wish for people to be safe. And I think that's got to start any conversation here. Once you get into the tournament, if you believed everything you would have read in sequence, you would have been right and then wrong and then right and then wrong on whether or not Iran was going to play. And the answer that I can tell you is we don't know that yet. There are conversations that will happen between the Iranian Federation and FIFA. They'll make a decision that makes sense for them. But from our perspective, one of the key themes that really touches on something Kylie said is there's a ton of uncertainty when you have this many people coming together. Our job is to focus on what is most important, to control what we can control. And what we can control is the fact that we are going to welcome anybody who comes to Seattle with open arms. They're going to find one of the most welcoming cities and communities, not just in the nation, but in the world. We take tremendous pride in that. And that's the message that we really want to get across. And the other thing that I'll say is we talk a lot about federal governments when we talk about the nations that play for the World Cup, because that's who qualifies. But I think as many of us know, a nation is much more than the position of its federal government. And so, as we talk about nations like Iran or Qatar or Australia coming, we have to remember that there are massive multi-million person populations that live in those countries that are descended from people who live in those countries, and there's tremendous variety in all of those populations. And I think it just reinforces the importance of whoever you are, as long as you're coming to have a good time and celebrate, we're going to welcome you with open arms. And we're really excited about what we can show you about our city and our state.
That brings up an intriguing and kind of a difficult management problem is that Seattle is known as have one of the largest numbers of Iranians living here, and the diaspora is significant. But the biggest city that's going to host one of these games that has the largest diaspora of Iranians is Los Angeles. And Iran is scheduled to play 2 games in LA before they play their third group game here in Seattle. So a lot of things are going to be settled well before that, but certainly by then it's going to be a big deal. And the one thing that kind of gets overlooked is that, and you were a military veteran who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I wanted to take advantage of your experience, and not that you are an expert in Iran or anything like that, but I wanted to see if that colors your appreciation for the deep passion that people have about their national soccer teams, because I think it's really unlike anything else in sports. I mean, we know about good fans here in Seattle, but there is something in the world about soccer and nationalism that is utterly unique to the World Cup, and we're going to see that. And I'm wondering if you can shed a little bit of light on that as far as how to interpret the passion that we're going to see, and probably even the dismay from the Iranians here who are going to be denied a chance to see their national team.
You had to be like really nervous with the setup for that question.
Yeah.
It's like, where's this going to go? I think what I really take from the question is we talk a lot about the economic impact. We talk a lot about the traffic impact. But the thing that I've been most moved by, and it's actually not because of my military experience, it's actually a more recent professional experience. I used to be the guy who cited shelters and permanent supportive housing across King County, which is like not the most popular guy in the room when you show up. But I gotta say, when I come into a room and talk about soccer and sport, the number of people who have some connection to the game just creates a completely different level of energy and environment. You will not find many people who can't find something positive to say about nations coming together through sport to unify, even if just for a moment, and learn more about each other and compete. It's one of the sort of purest experiences that still exists in our society, I think. And the point there is that the level of social impact of bringing folks together, and I think for our city, the level of social benefit that is at stake is one of the most important parts here. So yes, people get super into their nations. I do think Seahawks culture sort of begins to approach that level of common experience, but imagine that except when it's not a city or a state, it's hundreds of millions of people. And it's not just something you do for half the year, but it's the only thing that you pay attention to. It's that level of intensity, and I think we have a real opportunity and responsibility, not just to make sure that, and Kylie was talking about this, not just to make sure that the visitors have a good time, that's super important, but this is for us too. This is a chance for us to sort of relearn our city, us to give ourselves permission to do that thing that is so uncool in Seattle, which is to say, like, this is a pretty great place. It is the norm now to be so negative about what's wrong with the city, and we need to have those conversations. But we live in one of the most beautiful, one of the most prosperous, one of the most welcoming spots on the entire earth, and it would be a huge mistake to not celebrate that when all of these folks from all over the world are coming and paying attention.
Well said. Kylie, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the city's preparation for this passion. And I know you're not going to be divulging a lot of the security issues, but one of the great places at not only the World Cup, but at Olympics and often major domestic sporting events is an operation called Fan Fest, which is where lots of people can gather who aren't ticket buyers and can't possibly dream of getting inside the stadium, but still want to be there for the party. And I want to relate one episode that I experienced that may resonate with why this party is such a big deal. I had an opportunity in Athens to cover an event that was on the original grounds of the original Olympics 3,000 years earlier, and a part of that stadium is still there from 3,000 years ago, and it's obviously in Olympia, Greece. Believe it or not, the Olympics were not invented in South Puget Sound. As I was walking into this, all it was a field, a green field surrounded by eucalyptus trees, aluminum bleachers for about 1,200, and as I walked into this dirt road, a woman next to me saw my credential and said, "Oh, you're from Seattle." And I said, "Yeah." And she says, "Oh, so am I." I said, "Really?" And we started to talk. She lived in West Seattle, and we talked Seattle things in common. I said, "So is this your first event?" She's first Olympics? And she said, "No, I've been to 5. "Really?" "So is this big?" The event they were having was the shot put. I said, "Do you really like the shot put?" And she said, "Oh, no, this is my first event I've ever been to at Olympics, because it was free." I said, why'd you come here? And she said, "It's the party." She said, "Everybody here is smiling." I've never forgotten that. that's something to keep in mind as we consider all of this, is that this is a great party, and most people are here. I mean, I'm talking 99%, to have a great time, celebrate their team, celebrate the sport. So the Fan Fest in Seattle was going to be originally around Seattle Center, in Seattle Center. But it was decided that breaking that up into 4 different spots would be better. And I wanted Kylie to address how that decision came to be made and where those spots are.
Yeah, well, I mean, the good news is, you know, as you referred to as the party, we can now say parties, because we are expanding it and taking it even bigger. And so, I mean, the decision was really a joint decision between the city and the local organizing committee, and it was born, you know, honestly, out of conversations and outreach across the city. And Seattle Center obviously was a natural, it always has been a natural gathering place for people to go and be together and celebrate all sorts of things. And they are still a major anchor point of one of these, as you said, 4 kind of primary viewing sites and celebration sites. But I think, you know, one of the things that makes Seattle so unique, as you've heard from everybody up here, is just we are really a city of individual cultures and neighborhoods. And so what we heard, as you know, we were talking to folks about fan celebrations leading up to finalizing plans, we really did hear that more opportunities were going to be better for folks. And it really allows, it also allows for much more flexibility within each of these venues to do cool, different stuff. And so I think if what is best, if you know, that gets more people involved and more people to be able to come to a free, fun, exciting party, and they can watch matches and be together, that's great.
Could you explain a little bit about what's in a Fan Fest? I mean, it's important to realize that big screen TVs are the central focus, so that people who are not inside the stadium can see each match. And I was wondering if you could say what else is typically in all of these spots, and identify each one. There's one down by Pioneer Square, and go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. And Leo, chime in here too. I mean, I think, you know, yes, the main component of it is watching a match. So I know that at Seattle Center and at Victory Hall, I believe, which is with a second. So it's Victory Hall down in SODO, Seattle Center. The waterfront is going to host big free watch parties. And then actually an indoor opportunity at Pacific Place. They have, I don't know if anybody's been in there recently, but they have erected a giant screen thing, which is really cool. But that will be an opportunity for folks to also watch matches and be inside. But as I was speaking to earlier, Art, about the flexibility that this new expanded model allows for, you know, what you're going to see, at least on Seattle Center, maybe you can speak to some of the other venues, but at Seattle Center, you're going to see a real focus on cultural diversity. So, you know, this is happening right in the middle of some of our major Festal celebrations on campus. They're going to lean into that programming. They are, you know, kicking around ideas. Plans haven't been all finalized yet, but kicking around ideas for how do we create, you know, the potential for like a global marketplace type situation where we are celebrating, you know, not just the cultures of the teams and the countries that are playing, but ones that are here and celebrate that. So, you know, food trucks, music, stuff to buy, stuff to look at. But I don't know if you have any more details on some of the other venues.
I can speak a little bit to Victory Hall.
Victory Hall.
So Victory Hall will be one of the locations that has alcohol. And they are working to do, one of our games will have Belgium, and they're working to have Belgian beers and opportunities. And they're working directly with different members of the national groups to have experiences so that then they will be showing all of the games, not just the games that are here. And so they're looking to create experiences so that fans that want to come and see can drink beers from the countries that they're watching, that it can be more of a feeling. If you are Australian and you are here, you can go there and it's going to be drinking a beer that you're familiar with, and they've got a lot of experience. And so that's one of the only ones, and that's one of the things that splitting it up allows, is to have a location that already has an alcohol permit that can create more of a beer garden experience that can show all of the games.
Yeah, I think this is key. So, like, one of the inside soccer things that you learn, or I've at least learned as we get into planning this event, is there's this real tension between international events and local community. How do you make sure that the big event doesn't come to town and insulate itself so that the benefit is sort of kept within a certain perimeter? What we at the local organizing committee really began to hear, and I think the perfect symbol of this is actually Leslie Gallimore. She's the general manager for Seattle Reign FC. She's one of the smartest people I've met. She's like, I have been to almost every World Cup, and the best fan fests are families on picnic blankets, watching a big screen, sharing food. Her advice was, we don't need a lot of the other stuff. It's about quality time and it's about accessibility. And that sort of stuck with us. We heard from more and more communities that if we were to hold a big centralized closed-off event in a way that actually kept the benefit from accruing to local businesses in Pioneer Square, in SODO, in the Chinatown International District, in the Central District, that would be a miss. And so in many ways, the state of the art of hosting a big event like this has to do with taking the attention that comes from the big event and then connecting it more directly to the neighborhoods that are here all the time, the music venues that are here all the time, the bars, the restaurants. How do we help them benefit? And that's what this model really gets at. And then the other thing that folks have said, but just to reinforce it, is you kind of get experiences for everybody here. So there will be some folks who really are into the near stadium party scene. Some folks are going to want to be on the waterfront and look for seals. Some folks are going to want to go to Pacific Place. We're going to host the Seattle Soccer House there. That'll be the one of the watch parties or the Seattle fan celebrations that the local organizing committee itself is going to be hosting. A massive screen there, a lot of local businesses. There'll be a store there that I think a lot of people will want to go to. That we'll share that information here shortly when we can. And we're also in conversations with a couple of other neighborhoods for more. So we're in some conversations with the Chinatown International District. What does it look like to support watch parties there? What does it look like to support celebrations on Juneteenth in the Central District? This is one of the things that gives me goosebumps. We are hosting the United States national soccer team with hundreds of millions of people across the world watching this city on Juneteenth. And the responsibility and the magnitude of educating people who don't know about it, think about being on the African continent and learning why the United States has to have a holiday called Juneteenth. There's a huge responsibility there. This goes far beyond sport. And it's not just about what happens on broadcast. It's about how do we get visitors coming to town that day from Australia to go up into the Central District and see what's going on at 23rd and Union, see what's going on at Jimi Hendrix Park, and benefit those communities as well. So that's really what's at stake with this distributed model and why we're really excited about it.
To that end, Erin, are there dedicated places where nationalities can gather? I mean, you mentioned like the Belgian, the beer house.
So those conversations are happening. We've been, receiving communication from the Australians about parking for tour buses. I think that's going to get more clear over the next month or so. But I think Leo really sums it up very well. We need to move people out into the neighborhoods because everyone can't be in Pioneer Square. Everyone can't go up the Space Needle at the same time. Like, we don't have enough bathrooms or restaurants in one neighborhood. And so it's an opportunity to see Seattle, and we also need them to go. We talked about the parade. The parade was amazing. But everybody that came from the parade one knew where they were going, and they all went home at the end of the day. These people are staying, and we need to have places for them to go and experience and eat. And that's where these other fan fests and these other neighborhoods and these other experiences are so important. If everybody stays in SODO Pioneer Square, it won't work. We need to get them to Ballard and West Seattle and down to Burien and to other neighborhoods, because there's going to be so many people that we need that balance. We don't have enough bathrooms. I mean, we just need that experience, and it's really an opportunity to show what is so amazing about the greater Seattle area.
Beth, you've been well experienced in attracting events to Seattle, and it's been a remarkable thing that the Seattle Sports Commission has done. What kind of impact would a successful World Cup have on the future of attracting other big events?
Yeah, and as I said earlier, there's a level of confidence and an established reputation that hosting a World Cup provides, but it really opens the door for the next big event. And the next, Mayor Harrell used to say that we can't have all the home runs. We need the singles and doubles as well. And so that gives us the opportunity to certainly look for the 2031 Women's World Cup. And that's the FIFA Women's World Cup. And then there's the 2031 Men's Rugby World Cup. Those are the big events that are on the horizon that we're looking at. But there's also opportunities to bring new teams here. And I'm not even talking the Sonics, because of course that is of interest to us all. But the Premier Lacrosse League is looking to have a team in Seattle. The AUSL softball, professional women's softball, would like to have a team here. So creating this environment and this reputation in Seattle that reinforces that message that Leo talked about of being welcoming and inclusive, that matters to the teams for sure. That's why we got the Seattle Torrent here, is they knew that their players would be welcomed in Seattle. So hosting a World Cup really starts to open doors and sends a very strong message about who we are, what we're capable of, what our priorities are, and it makes us very attractive for other events. So we are, part of the job of the Sports Commission is also to look at the cadence of events and what size events do we want to host over the years. You don't want to do World Cups back to back to back, even if we could. That would just be a huge burden on city services and just our community. But to have an NHL All-Star game, and then an NFL draft a couple of years after that, and then a Women's World Cup, and then smaller things that happen in between, NCAA events, that's the kind of cadence that makes sense for our city. And it keeps a nice rhythm for us. But World Cup is the grand poobah of all events. So it really just sends a message of what we're capable of and what our interest is. And I've seen articles of other cities where that the general sentiment is, oh, she's another event. And there's this attitude of it's a burden, it's a real burden to host these events. And that's my goal, is that Seattle never takes on that type of mentality. And I think that that can happen if you do schedule too many events. LA is very, very good at hosting events. But when we went there for the MLB All-Star Game in 2022 as a site visit before hosting it in 23, there was a cavalier attitude by a lot of the folks in LA, like, yeah, whatever, MLB All-Star, we've got Olympics, we've got a Super Bowl. I mean, it just felt like no big deal to them, but not in a good way. So I don't want that to ever be Seattle. I want us to always feel excited about welcoming new visitors. And Leo, you said it so perfectly. I am really passionate about making sure that our locals are enjoying this World Cup. This is a generational event, and we will never, none of us will ever see that in Seattle in our lifetime again. So being able to come down and see it firsthand and be part of the party, or sitting on a blanket with your family at Seattle Center, wherever you are, that is just something you don't want to miss. And I would encourage you to tell your friends and family the same thing. You know, occasionally I'll hear I'm just going to rent my house out for Airbnb. That's fine, but don't leave. Go sit on your houseboat or whatever you need to do, and make sure that you still come to World Cup and experience it.
Beth, how crucial was the completion of the waterfront to this presentation of Seattle?
It was significant. There's no question. It makes us that world-class city that we know we are, because we were unfinished before then. And now it not only feels complete, but it is truly that corridor that gets people through the downtown area. It gets them from the hotels down to the waterfront. It encourages them to come to the stadium district. And moves people around. And so it was a really significant moment, to not only for pedestrian flow, but also how people think of Seattle once they're here. It completes the picture.
Kylie, what is the major tasks from the standpoint of the operation of the city in terms of executing all the two big issues, I think, are security and transportation. Huge issues, especially in such a compact downtown. What are the stress points, and what have you solved, if any?
Well, I mean, the thing that I think makes us so unique, but also makes hosting events like this uniquely challenging for Seattle, is that, we are maybe one of the only, or the only, if not the only, one of the very few cities whose stadiums, or two major stadiums, are right in the middle of downtown. So that's great. I mean, fun, exciting, vibrant, love that. It also presents very complex challenges in terms of safety and security, transportation, mobility. You have people living right there within the security perimeter. So there are going to be impacts to particularly in kind of the hot zone there of Pioneer Square, SODO, CID. When I came on board, as you spoke to a little bit, there was a big sentiment of, let's learn from what we have done in the past, particularly the All-Star Weekend that you referenced. So I think we have, along with our partners at the LOC, taken a really intentional view of how are we being thoughtful about the impacts to small businesses and helping ensure that they are able to continue to do business and hopefully thrive on these match days. But it's, I think we're going to have to not sugarcoat some of the impacts that folks are going to feel there, particularly people that are working there and living there. But as we continue to remind ourselves, and this is not to negate any of these impacts, but it is 6 days. And so sometimes we get ourselves wrapped around the axle of, my gosh, it's months and months. And yeah, there will be outsized impacts just from the sheer amount of people that are here. But we have big tourist seasons every year, big cruise seasons. So yeah, I'm not sure that we've solved for it, but we are prepared.
Well, just please tell me that there's not going to be 3 cruise ships at the same time that they kick off one of the games. Can you tell me that one?
I don't don't know. Leo, what do you think?
What I can say, you should know that we map all that out. So just to build on what Kylie's saying, we are one of only 2 stadiums of the 16 where the stadia are really integrated into the core of the downtown. And that does pose challenges. I think it's super important to be candid about the impacts, but it's also a tremendous opportunity. The level of excitement of coming to a city and not having to get on a bus and ride for 45 hours through the suburb to get to a giant asphalt parking lot that surrounds an entire stadium. The experience is just very different, and what we hear particularly from a lot of the European fans who are looking to come is that they're much more used to that sort of urban integrated stadium experience in their downtown, and so that's something that will be familiar. But the fact that you're going to be able to start your morning at the stadium, be out on the waterfront 10 minutes later, take a 20-minute walk and be in the middle of our Chinatown International District, take another 20-minute walk, or get on the light rail, or get on the streetcar, or get on the shuttle that'll be there, or get on a metro bus, and that you can then go to the Seattle Art Museum, you can get up to the Seattle Center, and oh, by the way, you're going to be able to get on light rail in the Chinatown International District and coast along the first floating bridge laid light rail track in the world and be in Bellevue and Redmond in less than an hour. That's an extraordinary urban experience. And so I really like the way that Beth said it. The waterfront finished in many ways the city, and maybe like some further finishing here is we are stitching together a world-class network of ways to get in, and there are impacts to that that go beyond the fan experience. There will be 0 single occupancy vehicle parking anywhere at the stadium. That has tremendous environmental or sustainability benefits when you think about how many fewer people, the transportation people call it mode shift, but are going to be taking cars. Now, part of that's practical, because if you're trying to drive your car, it's going to be harder to get near the stadium. But part of that is a luxury. You're going to be able to get on increased frequency of sounder trains, of light rail trains, of metro buses that'll be stacking the way they do outside of Husky games at the stadium so that they can depart and arrive as soon as they get filled up. There's been a tremendous amount of transportation planning and security planning that has gone into taking this particularly urban situation, and we are, I think as Kylie said, we're ready, and we're really excited to show off what it's going to be like to go to a match in the middle of the summer in Seattle.
That brings up a point about planning and the space we've got here. Next to the 509 freeway heading south and west of the stadiums is several acres of vacant land. What the hell is going on there, and what could happen related to the World Cup?
I know that those conversations, that land is not paved,
Right.
which causes challenges for parking, for environmental reasons. So I know that those conversations, a lot of people have looked at the Waska property for potential, and it's still ongoing because you can't park on it when it's unpaved for oil reasons. I don't know that there is actually a plan for Waska right now, is there, Leo?
I thought for sure there would be pop-up tents or something.
The Waska property is going to actually be used for transportation planning, and so there will be buses and vehicle staging on and off of that property to help people move in and out and help cargo move in and out.
One of the other great mysteries of major sports events in Seattle is the issue of artificial turf. We've always had artificial turf, obviously not for the baseball team, but certainly that's been the case for football for all the obvious weather-related reasons. But that's not happening. There is going to be real grass. Can any of you speak directly to how that magic is working?
I can speak a little bit about it, and then there might be others, but I think this is actually one of the cool, again, inside soccer stories of the World Cup, is when a statewide vote had to happen to make Lumen Field possible. In that legislation is a requirement that the stadium must be able to accommodate a grass playing surface for a World Cup. So all the way back when that vote was happening, the seeds of this plan were in there, and the way I at least hear the story, I can't say I was there, a really remarkable person named Fred Mendoza really sort of drove forward that particular aspect of the legislation. Now fast forward to 2026, There is 14 inches of substrate going down on top of that turf surface right now. There will be a world-class stitched grass playing pitch, as we call it in soccer, in place. It's not just going to be for the World Cup, so we have the privilege of having the U.S. women's national team come into town. They're going to be playing an exciting match against Japan in April on that surface. We have both the Reign and the Sounders. They'll get a chance to play on grass in their home stadium as well. So it is a requirement that there be a grass playing surface for any FIFA World Cup. We're really excited about what's taking shape there. And if you ever get a chance just to watch how the fantastic crew at Lumen Field, both the Public Stadium Authority and First and Goal Incorporated, they'll turn it into motocross and they'll bring in like tons of dirt, and then the next weekend it'll be soccer, and then the next day it'll be football, and that's people out at like midnight changing lines, putting down new lines, pulling up turf, putting down concert surfaces, bringing in dirt, bringing out dirt. That's a really well used and run facility, and it's really amazing to watch.
And Art, I would just add another interesting aspect of the grass field, grass pitch, is that the level of detail that goes into growing it, stitching it together, and when you think about, you've got these 16 different stadiums in different cities, different climates, and yet we are mandated to have equal playing fields, literally, for all of the teams. And so there is so much science that goes into growing that grass and have it be as equitable as possible across every single stadium, so that it doesn't matter what city you're in, you're going to have a comparable experience. It's a fascinating, I couldn't begin to detail out what it all is entailed, but it is very, very scientific and very specific.
Well, I think we are into it for about an hour, and I'd be very eager to entertain questions from the audience about things you've heard or things you haven't heard. And I think this group has done very well to explaining a very complicated endeavor with, especially, you just can't know what you don't know in some of these things. And I feel a lot better after hearing everyone speak up here. Back here. Yes. Jen.
I'm wondering, I don't know how the math would work out, but was it considered to have a fair holiday on public transportation during the days of the games as a way to accommodate all of these people? And I love how you have the tap now. You can tap whatever device you have to use transit. But it just seems like that's one of the obstacles to really getting people onto transit, is they don't have their overpass. So was it considered, or I know there's a lot of costs involved in all that, but I'm curious if that was considered as an option to just like fair holiday on the days there's games, everybody get on transit.
Yeah, I can speak. So I think that option and many more came across. Ultimately, I think one of the cool opportunities in big events like this is actually how do you use them to change and modify for better the way we interact with our city. And so, and the other thing is that we want to be able to prove that we can host events as we are, as opposed to sort of twisting ourselves into a weird fair pretzel in order to attract the next event. And so for the long-term viability of our transportation system, we think it's actually really important that people use these new innovations, like the numerous ways that there are reduced fares for any number of folks to really increase access. Youth ride for free every day right now. You do have the ability to tap to pay, and so because one of our long-term goals is to support the adoption of the type of public transit system that really allows our city to continue growing, we actually really saw this as an opportunity to show off just how easy it is to get on a bus, get on the streetcar, transfer to the ferry, transfer from the ferry. So I know that they considered it. Ultimately, we landed with what I think is a much more sustainable approach. And it's one that also has, our local agencies being able to get the resources from operation that they need to keep going. And so I think they struck a good balance.
I wanted to add, right here. Go ahead.
So I'm wondering about, it's a kind of a transportation related question, but are there going to be tailgating kinds of events around the stadium? Is that going to be permitted to the north of the stadium?
To the north of the stadiums, we have had outreach from some of the national groups for locations to rent. So like they're looking for venues, but traditional tailgating like we see for the Seahawks out of a vehicle, we don't anticipate that. That's not a tradition. We don't see that with Sounders games. So we're not anticipating. We do expect there to be, in addition to what's happening at Victory Hall, for there to be, you know, specific bars or restaurants that will be a central hub for all of the Belgian fans or this. But I don't expect to see tailgating as we would see it for a Seahawks game. It's just not really part of the tradition around soccer or football.
So that's part one of the question. So what I'm trying to get at is for those of us who own businesses and live north of the area that's directly affected, we experience transportation opportunity challenges on days like the Seahawks create gridlock. Baseball used to create gridlock and probably will again. So we have all of those problems getting in and out and actually going on with the lights. And that's fine, I know that's going to happen. But what I'm asking is, when would we know enough to know, here's stuff you need to plan around?
I know that the Alliance for Pioneer Square, because I assume you're talking about the Pioneer Square.
No, I'm talking about north.
Oh, north.
I'm talking about downtown.
Yeah, they put out their map of the areas they're going to be pedestrian only last week. We are telling people in SODO, go early. Yes, we're encouraging everyone to use transit, but transit will also be very crowded, and they are putting in more trains. So planning extra time, if you are a regular commuter, is also going to be important. As for north of Pioneer Square, I don't have when they're going to be releasing it. I know that Pioneer Square released their map of closures in the last week.
I'm talking about the central business district. I'm talking about Belltown.
I mean, I don't anticipate the kind of hot zone of impacts and street closures is really Pioneer Square, SODO, some areas around the CID. But I think Erin's right that regardless of whether you're doing business or living in a place that is within that street closure grid or not, there will be, it fans out. And so as you said, you feel it where you are for Seahawks games. I would, again, not going to sugarcoat it, I would expect that there will be a higher than normal volume of congestion.
We expect that. I'm just asking for a schedule. So if there were going to be tailgating, then we'd expect it much earlier. And I know you probably don't have the answer now, but it's just a question.
We actually do have most of the answer. And so, and that's information that we were actually just talking. So us coming out and joining a neighborhood council meeting soon, I think will be super helpful. But here's what we know. Every game is on a weekday. One of those is a federal holiday, Juneteenth, but otherwise every game is on the weekday. You have a noon start time, a noon start time, a noon start time, a 8 p.m. game, and that's on a Friday. And then you have a 1 p.m. game and a 5 p.m. game. So if it's on a work day and it's not a holiday and it's a noon start time, we know that we are going to implement traffic street closures 4 hours before a game, and I believe it's until 7 hours after the match ends. We have those maps. And we can provide you, and you can actually go on the Alliance for Pioneer Square, the SODO, or the CID World Cup websites right now, and you could actually see grainy footage of me making a presentation where those maps are actually, there, and we talk about them. So we have shared really clearly what we currently know, but I think the thing that we should be prepared for as a community is that these are our best plans right now, and the only thing I can guarantee you is that something about them is going to change, and it's going to change based on something that we might not be able to predict. So how does the first match go? Because we have 6 of them. So what adjustments might we put in place by match 3 or match 4? Does a security condition change that has us reassessing where street closure should be or the time that a street closure is in place? Something that is very different about the FIFA World Cup than almost any other event here is you can expect multiple heads of state to come in and out of our region to attend matches over the course of that 3.5 weeks. And if anybody has ever been on the road when the vice president comes in for a fundraiser at some house on the water in a neighborhood far off, you know what that does. And if you can imagine multiple heads of state coming to the same match potentially, you start to build a mental map of the standard street closures, and again, we know what those are for now. They might change. We know the times that they'll be in effect. They'll be only in effect on the days of the 6 matches. They won't be in effect on non-match days. And then there's all the variables that I don't, if you read it in the newspaper and they tell you they know who's coming here from a head of state at what time, they either know something that everybody else doesn't, or they are speculating and they're not right.
Well, I think, and you're right, Leo. I think something also to add is, there are hotels all throughout our downtown that are going to be used not just for hosting heads of state, but for hosting teams. And at least, I live downtown, and when the Club World Cup was here, which was, a different scope and scale for sure. But as I was walking around my neighborhood, it was clear that there was obviously a team staying at the Westin because there were people camped outside, waiting to do something. I don't know, see somebody. I'm not sure, but so yes, you're right. There will be impacts to areas outside of just the Pioneer Square area, and another, just to add on to Leo's point, and yours, Art. We don't know what we don't know, and at least our folks at the city are prepared to make adjustments as things go along. But even match to match is going to look and feel very different based on who is here. Juneteenth is going to be massive. So even, if the first match goes, okay, yeah, we feel like we need to be prepared to pivot, at any time.
And one of the things that the LOC has done, especially with the adjacent neighborhoods, is they have something called the Neighborhood Liaison Program. So during this period of time, we have designated staff that will be on call 24 hours a day to respond to issues from our businesses and to respond to calls from the LOC so that we can be communicating. We have a phone that's got a bright orange cover, and it's like the hotline, and each neighborhood is handling it differently. In our case, it's the phone will go to different staff people so that we can respond to an emergent issue and connect, and we can respond to an emergent issue that they have. And it's really important because I can tell you, we were so excited with the Seahawks, but the division championship game with tailgating was a challenge, and we forgot how to handle tailgating during COVID, and it was like, oh wait, we know how to do this, and getting everybody at SDOT to remember that we have to close a street once there's all these people. And so the fact that we already have this communication system up and running is really important and will be really helpful when things are, in the moment need to be handled.
And is it accurate, though, that you're also asking, is there a timeline to say, this is what's going to happen in this part of downtown? Is that part of your question?
Well, I understand there's some ambiguity, right? And there's some things like, with the China came in, and I couldn't even walk down my street to get my mom. And you don't know that kind of stuff. It's very obvious. No, I'm just, to the extent that there are going to be modifications and changes, I get it, if we're Pioneer Square, we're dialed in, but we are not Pioneer Square. So what's our access point? It's part of why I really want you guys to come and talk to us downtown. What's our access point? Who do we call if anybody? Not that I expect it to be, but like to live with no surprises. So it's really about seeing what we can do to at least minimize the surprises for the office community, for the business community, and for the exceptionally large residents. So that's really.
I think you call Leo, right?
Yeah, I know. Leo. And just the other thing, where's Sound Transit on this?
Very much in it. So there's, all of the transit agencies that you know and a couple that you might not come together and have been for 2.5 years now. And so Sound Transit's very much in the middle of it, and they've been a wonderful partner. So I don't know if there's something more specific than that, but they're fully in the plan. One thing, another way to answer your question is starting in May, there's going to be a Know Before You Go public communications campaign from all the transit agencies that will begin to communicate the changes to frequency of different modes and if there are any changes to where you'll pick them up. So that public communication campaign will start in May.
And we're at the city also working now on how do we there's, as I'm sure you know, lots of ways that city departments and city agencies push out information to the public based on whatever needs to be communicated. So we are now looking at the kind of universe of what we have available at the city and how are we speaking with one voice through whether it's Alert Seattle or whether it's a SDOT specific alert system that they have. So those conversations are happening.
I would also alert anybody who is going to be in the vicinity of a hotel that is hosting a team, run away. Run away, because the hotel of the national team is a magnet for visitors from the host nation, obviously, and adjacent. But adjacency is a very difficult thing to manage at most sports events because it's the chance for some fans to get what they think is up close and personal with their heroes. And the cluster around that is usually, there's a secure cordon that typically surrounds that hotel. But when you're talking about a downtown hotel, there's only so far a cordon can go, and you may be able to speak to that.
But we also have 2 practice facilities, too, at Seattle University and UW as well. So those will be magnets as well.
Hey, Art, they can come to my hotel. They're fine if they want to come and be a magnet at my hotel.
Oh, okay, yes. Craig, yeah, you know about hotels.
Yeah, so they can come there and spend a lot of money. I have this couple. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of you. You're doing the heavy lifting, and there was, from what I understand and what I've seen, there's no template for this type of thing in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico in terms of the geography. So there's been so much guessing, I think. I mean, we're guessing still as business owners as to what we're going to see and how it's going to come out. Kylie made a great point, though. In June and July, we're always busy, okay? So we know how to handle those things. I think the difference on this one will be that we're busy with people that aren't necessarily there to cheer on a team. So the good thing is, I think everybody's going to have a great party. So it may be a little bit different kind of a scene, but we're hoping for high occupancy, but we still don't know. And it's still one of those things that we're just going to have to take what we get. But I want to thank you guys for doing what you're doing, because I can only imagine, I think about when we're talking about what we're going to experience, we're guessing. So I can only imagine with all the complexity of everything we're dealing with. And that's why Kylie said it's 6 days. You've got to get your brain back to there. So thanks.
So I have a unique position being a business improvement area in that I work with business improvement areas across the country. I had the opportunity to go to Toronto and work with folks there. I was just in LA meeting, and in LA, they don't mention World Cup at all. It's all Olympics. Like, you wouldn't even know the World Cup is coming. But I meet with my peers in these, and when I went to Toronto, and first of all, in Toronto, it's all being handled by the national government. They don't have an LOC that's a nonprofit that's having to raise money to organize this. And so I really want to shout out to Leo and the work that they've been doing. But I think I'll be honest, there were times last year I'm like, oh, we're not ready. Oh, we're not ready. And then I talked to some of my peers and realized, oh, we are ahead. And yes, you're right. We don't know what we don't know. But as things have rolled out, the Sports Commission, the Chamber have put together these playbooks. The plans have come out. And it's one of those things, as the different parts of the recipe have start to come together, as someone who's not in the government, who's not, I'm involved, but I'm also a little on the outside, you're starting to see it come together. I'm feeling a whole lot. And, the parade did give you that little bit more confidence that, I'm in a long-term, large-scale event person. Something always happens. Doesn't matter how well prepared you are, but I'm feeling a lot better than I was a year ago and than I was 6 months ago, certainly than I was in November. And so I can tell you, and you know me, I wouldn't, I'm feeling like we are in a place to do this, and I'm really excited.
That makes me feel better.
Question?
I've got two questions, and the caveat is I just moved to Seattle 2 days ago. One, what are like the main principles, tenets, pillars of Seattle you're looking to show off to the world? I know, Erin, you talked about Australians drinking Australian beer while they're here, but I think a lot of it is like showing off what Seattle is for everyone else. So I'd love to hear maybe the top three of those. And then the other one is, how are you utilizing all the attention, funding, hoopla of this event to improve Seattle for the long term, for the people who are going to be here after?
Chief Legacy Officer.
Chief Legacy Officer.
How much time you got?
So speaking my language, well, one, welcome to Seattle. I can make a shameless pitch now. Anybody and everybody here, if you have a mobile phone, you can go on to either the Google or the Apple Store and download an app called See and Win, SEA&win. So this is a gamified experience we put together. But what it does is it connects the Central District, go there, to the Chinatown International District, go there, to SODO, to Pioneer Square, to the waterfront, to Belltown, to Seattle Center, and then up to Capitol Hill, running through the commercial core. And we're attempting to create a new habit for how people come to Seattle and check it out. So if you download that app, you'll see the 410 individual stops that we've identified in partnership with leaders in every community that we think anybody who comes to Seattle should check out. And oh, by the way, check out the stops you walk by along the way. The second part of your question is the entire reason for our organization really existing. And if my boss were here, the first thing he'd say is despite all the conversation here today, the thing he's least worried about is the soccer games. And the thing that he is most worried about is that today's 8-year-old, when they are 38, looks back on this event and sees how it strengthened and benefited our city. So we've got a couple specific ways that we've been doing that. Some of that you would probably predict. We're working with the Rave Foundation. We're building mini soccer fields across the state. We have some particularly important projects where we've used attention that comes from the World Cup. We are a nonprofit to raise funds, and then have built a new soccer pitches on tribal reservations in partnership with some of our tribal communities. And they are now, I believe, at 48 new soccer fields out of an overall goal of 52. So they're almost at, it was at first 26 for 26, and now it's more than that. We've used the attention to actually designate Seattle as one of 4 regional hubs for Paralympic blind soccer. We are bringing the first set of blind soccer pitch panels so that blind athletes have a chance to play soccer and enjoy it. And if you haven't checked out, this is my second phone recommendation, if you haven't checked out blind soccer as a Paralympic sport, Google that or whatever service you use. It is extraordinary, and you will see the full breadth of what trained athletes are capable of doing. It's not just that, though. We're working with a local coalition of service providers for people who are experiencing homelessness. I got a shout out to my friend Daniel Malone from the Downtown Emergency Services Center. I think one of the most important leaders in our whole community is sitting here right now. And we're working to map the impacts of big events on service providers for folks who live outside, so that when we have big events, we can maintain access to service. And so one real solid example of that is there's a methadone dosing van that parks on the north side of Occidental Square 2 mornings a week. And the people who depend on that service, if it is not there, their life is literally at risk. And so despite everything that we've just talked about, we've got to figure out a way that we can keep those folks connected to their treatment. And we have to show that a big sporting event needs to account for those types of things too. We have, I can go on and on about this. Would love to talk about it with anyone afterwards, but the tagline here, and to me, the reason why I'm involved in this work is our job to take this moment of global focus and convert it into long-term local progress for things that we care about. The other way to say this is at the local organizing committee, we have a really clear understanding of where we're measuring success. We hope that the world thinks that this was a fantastic event. We are dedicated to making sure that our community thinks that this was a fantastic event. Some of that's going to be soccer, and some of that's going to have nothing to do with soccer.
Are there questions? Yes. Oh, no, I guess that's... yes, back there.
So we're definitely a sports town, but we're not really a public bathroom town. If you go downtown, I'm very curious, is there, I mean, this might be too small, but like, is there any thought to bathrooms for people who are downtown but aren't, say, patronizing an establishment? Because we can't all go to the 3rd floor of the Target. Thank you.
Well, one, thank you for sharing that tip to our new Seattleite. So, third floor of Target. That's not on See and Win yet. But I really appreciate that question because I think that, one, there are some important things that are happening. The Seattle Department of Transportation, for example, is working to site some new bathrooms that are going to be in Pioneer Square, and there might be folks here who can speak more about that. But there are 2 things I actually want to ask for everyone's help here before we go. And one of them is, what does it look like for us as a community to decide that we want more bathrooms? I think that is an investment in future events. It's an investment in people who need bathrooms right now. And I got to say, there is nothing that is more unifying than having to go to the bathroom. Everybody has to do it. I'll save my second one because maybe that's a question of my second request. But I think it's a really good point. I know that there will be some temporary, you can predict rows of Santa cans. Some of that will be out there for the event days themselves. Again, the Seattle Department of Transportation, I believe, is doing some cool experimentation with other models that could be longer term, but we need more bathrooms in our community.
We will be hosting a demo of the Throne, which is the bathroom that's as taught in our parking lot, if people are interested in it. It is, to be blunt, a public restroom that I would use, and I'm not a big fan of a porta potty. I got to check one out in DC, and it's, I run SODO. I look at things when they bring them to me as how could SODO destroy this? And I looked at the Throne, and we were in a park in DC, and I'm like, this makes sense. They use them in Griffith Park in LA. They're about the size of one of those units that you could get from U-Haul that gets dropped off in front of your house. And I was really, really impressed. SDOT's trying to bring them in, Metro's trying to bring, there's a certain number you've got to get to. So once I have it, I will welcome everyone to come visit because we need a few more to make the model work.
Have you been to the waterfront park?
Those are gorgeous. Those cost a lot of money. These do not cost a lot of money.
Your tax dollars at work, though.
I know. I would love to have that, but those sit in one place. These are mobile. And in
lot of money for my budget, but in government dollars, these are very affordable.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I call this meeting adjourned. Please, a round of applause for our guests.
Thank you.